Hello and welcome back, and this is Sarah's Creative Solutions by Backyard Art, and today we are looking at the assembly instruction video for the barn owl. So it's a PDF file and you need to download it and print it off, and once you've done that, cut it out and stick the wing on the main body like I'm doing in the video now. These are all the parts. So once you've cut them all out, then roll out your clay to 5mm thick or half a centimetre. Lay out all your parts and cut round using a needle tool. Now I recommend that you use a sheet of plastic underneath your slab of clay to stop the clay from sticking to the board, and that would mean that when you come to release the parts from the plastic, they will not stretch and lose their shape. So once you have cut out all of the main parts, then use a blunt tool to highlight all the detail that's on the template. So let's speed this section up so we can move on to the next part. Now it's time to move these segments onto a board that you can build on if you haven't done that already. So this is the upper body, so you need to cut out those first two darts at the top and then fold that flap over like so. But then you do need to try this against the base to make sure it fits, like that. Slight adjustment, in slightly more. Shape it by cupping it in my hand, pressing gently with my finger. The idea of the shape. Then once you're happy, cut out that excess clay using your spatula tool, and then you can join those two darts together using thick slip. Just take out those extra triangles that you've just cut. Need to cut a little bit more just there. There we are, so now that's ready to slip together. If you'd like to learn how to make slip, then I do have a video on my YouTube channel if you want to go and check that out. It shows you how I make mine. So there you go, slip those two together. Now I'm just going to add a couple of little sausages of clay to the inside just to support those joins. And then at the bottom I'm going to add a couple of little darts just at the bottom there to narrow it up so it blends nicely onto the bird tail. I'll show you that shortly. But before you do that, just blend all the joins together and make sure everything's nice and smooth. As I said earlier, I'm going to add a couple of little darts in the bottom, just so it blends nicely into the tail and it just makes it a little bit narrower. And just fold them over and blend them in. Now I'm using an orange wood stick just to mark out where the claws or legs of the bird would attach to the body. And we're just creating a little Y, just like I'm doing in the video now. And it just gives a better effect. You can either apply this body to the base now using slip and scoring, or you can do it later, but if you do, make sure you put your keyholes in the base before you attach so it can be mounted on the wall. So these are the wing bones, so this is the thickest part of the wing, and this is going to be slipped on later. I'll show you that later, but when you do slip it on, it has to be blended in really well. Normally do this when I'm putting the detail on for the wings, but at the moment I'm just showing you where they're positioned. So we're going on to the beak section now. We've got to add on these parts, there's 3 of them, and it's just basically where the feather detail is attached to the eyebrows and things and the nose. So we're going to slip those on, like so, blend in with a brush, use thick slip, and once you've blended in, that's can be left to one side to firm up, and that can be attached to the face later on. Now this is the head parts. So this is the bit that the face attaches to. You bend it round like so into a love heart shape and push that point down. And then you can kind of see where the face will attach. Take the inside edge away, score and slip both sides, and then attach when you're ready. Now this is the next part. This is the lower neck, and the round edge always faces up, so the round edge is what is attaching to the head and the flat edge is what attaches to the body. There we go, so that helps it to tip forward. Take the inside edge off that as well and score and slip and attach when you're ready. Here I'm adding an extra dart in mine, just taking out a V at the back of the neck, and that's because of the position of the head that I'm planning to do for the bird. I want the head to tilt forward more because he's leaning down and looking at his feet. So that's what this, doing this will give it a really nice shape, and it gives a nice curve on the back of the head. And there you go. So make sure all the joins are filled in. So here it is. It's been blended really well and left for about an hour, and it's firmed up. And I'm just tidying it up a little bit with a brush from the inside, making sure everything is joined well. And now I'm going to start adding some detail to the head. As you can see there is a hole in the body, and that's important to allow airflow. And at this point you can see I've added the detail to the wings, so you could position your wings at this point as well if you wanted to. You could lift them up off the board, you know, whatever you want to do with them. So now I'm scoring the face, and I'm going to add the nose using that thick slip. There's a nose there, score the back of that as well. Add that to the face, the position that I've scored. Make sure it all lines up, and then add more thick slip to fill in any gaps. I'm using my eyeball stamp to make some eyeballs, but you can just roll out some clay between your fingers if you don't have a stamp. I made these stamps myself, so it's not something you can purchase as far as I know. But it's relatively easy to do. I do recommend that you allow your eyeballs to dry out a little bit so that the clay is hard, and that way the sockets or the eyeballs will keep their shape. So once your eyeballs are ready, use a thick slip again and attach. Point now, it would be a really good idea to get yourself a picture off the internet for a sculptural reference of an owl, so you can see what the face looks like, see what the feather looks like, the detail, eyelids and all the rest of it. Here I am just adding the feather detail by scoring the clay area around the eye in a fan motion, as you can see, and that seems to work quite effectively. There you are. Now we're going to work on the claws. So I've got a little slab of clay left over from earlier that's firmed up, and I'm just highlighting the claws through the paper onto the clay, as I found this a lot quicker than cutting it out in detail, and then that way I can cut it out just basically in the clay instead of paper as well. There you go, so it's imprinted onto the clay now. Use my needle tool just to cut round the marks that I've made through the paper. And I found that a lot easier, but it's up to you. You can cut out the template if you feel that's easier that way. And don't forget you need 4 toes, 1 for each side. These pieces will need to firm up before you can attach them, so make sure that they're leather hard before you start putting the feet together, otherwise they will be too soft and won't keep their shape. Now we're attaching the bones of the wings, like I said earlier, and scoring and slipping, and then we're going to blend those in. That's one. Press firmly, make sure the seam at the top of the wing is filled in with any slip that you've got lying around. Score the other one. Both sides, don't forget both sides, that's important. Extra slip. Give it a little wiggle, make sure that it's nicely attached, and then blend in with a brush. And we'll probably do a bit of blending in later when we put on the detail for the wings, but you could do that now if you want to. There we go. So I've attached those now, and now I'm putting the keyholes in. This is so it can be wall mounted. So make sure the hole's big enough to cater for the screw or whatever attachment you're going to use to hang it on the wall. Make sure it's big enough, because the clay does shrink in the kiln, so keep that in mind. And at this point now you can attach the body. And like I say, whenever you do attach the body, make sure you put the holes in first. So now I'm highlighting all the feathers with the needle tool, making sure they're all defined. Now I'm going to add the small feather detail, and I'm using my round trimming tool to do this, just by using half of it, as you can see in the video. I do recommend that the clay is firm before you do this, because I did struggle a little bit on this one with the clay being too soft. The effect is a lot better when the clay is firm, but that's me rushing. You can take more time. So here you go, I'm blending in those bones a little bit more now. You need to take off quite a bit because we don't want it to stick out too proud, but at the same time it's still got to be thickest there. So use your finger to blend, or tool, whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm going to take away the very edge of the feathers by just taking a small triangle away on one side, and then I'm going to use my damp brush to blend it all in, take away any rough edges. So I'm going to speed this section up now so we can get on to the next bit. So now we're working on the claws. These have been left to go leather hard, as you can see, nice and stiff. So I'm just going to take all the square edges off and round it out, and then I'm going to score and slip each toe on either side. But I'm going to give it time to firm up each time I do, so that the claws will stay attached. And then once I've done that, I'm going to add some thick clay to the very end of the thickest part of the leg where it attaches to the body, just to make it a little bit more realistic. But here you go, I'm attaching the first claw now. So I'm just going to score the area where it's going to attach. Dip it in some slip. Score it with my needle tool and then attach it. It's that simple. And give it a few minutes to firm up. There they are. Both of them are firmed up now. And I'm adding the extra clay to the end of the leg, like I said earlier. And now I'm going to position on the body, the best place I think. So try it against it first, have a look. I'm actually using very thick slip here as part of the sculptural detail, and I found it looks like feather down when it's dry. So you could do that too if you wanted to, or you could just add more detail to the legs if you want to do it that way. So give it a wiggle, make sure it's really well attached, and you can add more thick slip to the side of the leg to make it look like feather down as well if you want to give it more detail. But I would recommend that the claws are the last thing that you attach to the body. Make sure you've done all the detail on the rest of the bird first before you attach this, because you might knock them off if you see a bit that you want to tidy up, or you know. And then the same with the head. The head applies to that theory as well. Make sure you've done all the detail on the head before you attach it to the body. And as you can see, I have actually got a hole pushed through there, and that allows airflow into the head cavity, which will ensure an even drying stage for firing. And at this point now you can position the wings as well, obviously, so that you can get a better detail. And as you can see now, mine's dried out and is looking really good. I've positioned it on the kiln shelf, ready for it to be fired once it's dried out enough. And I did that by sliding the bird off the board I'd made it onto the kiln shelf once it was ready. And I'm really happy with it. So in a moment I'm just going to show you what it looks like once it's fired. And yeah, looks good. If you'd like more information, wherever you're watching me from, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, then the links will be in the video description, or on the profile, or on my bio. Here we are, this is the bird fired and wall mounted. I did a second bird, and that one I added a mouse and put the head on in a different position. This template is so versatile, I couldn't tell you. And the amount of people that have commented on the template after they've had a go, and the success rate they've had has been brilliant. So if you want to check out those reviews, you'll find them on my shop on Etsy. Don't forget to click subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, as this will save these instructions in your viewing list. Thanks for watching.